Hey folks, big news just dropped from the Supreme Court. They've finally weighed in on how much immunity a president gets from criminal charges tied to official actions while in office. This one's centered on former President Trump, and honestly, it's a game changer. Can you believe that in over 2 centuries of American history, this is the first time the courts tackled this head on? It's got real weight, stirring up emotions on all sides about power accountability and what it means for our democracy. I've got my team of political experts poring over the details as we speak. Andy McCarthy, let's start with you. Chief Justice John Roberts took the lead on writing this opinion. Does that carry extra meaning? Absolutely, it does. This case stands out as the heavyweight of the term, not just for Trump's immediate future, but for the presidency itself down the line. From what we're seeing, Roberts is laying it out clear. When it comes to core powers baked into the Constitution, a former president can't be prosecuted. That's absolute immunity. For broader official duties, there's a strong presumption of protection, but if something's purely personal or unofficial, no shield there. It boils down to the way our government's built, with checks and balances at its heart. The ruling splits 6-3, with Justices Sotomayor, Kagan and Jackson pushing back in dissent. There are some nuances where votes cross lines on specific parts, but that's the gist. Now, the real heart-pounding question is, how do we draw the line between official and unofficial? That's where the rubber meets the road, and we're diving deep to unpack it. Stay tuned. This could reshape everything. All right, picking right up where we left off, the Supreme Court has laid down the law a former president gets absolute immunity when their actions fall squarely into those exclusive, core constitutional powers that only the president can wield, like granting pardons or commanding the military. For other official acts, stuff done as part of the job, even if it's on the broader edges, there's at least a strong presumption of immunity. Prosecutors would have to prove that going after it wouldn't mess with the executive branch's ability to function. And for anything purely unofficial, personal, or outside the role, zero protection, no shield at all. This is a huge shift, folks. For the first time in our nation's history, the court has drawn these lines in black and white. Chief Justice Roberts, writing for the 6-3 majority, made it clear this isn't about putting any one person above the law. It's about safeguarding the presidency itself so future leaders can make tough calls without constant fear of criminal charges hanging over them. That said, the dissenting justices Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson warned this could open the door to real abuse. And their pushback was sharp. The big puzzle now, the one everyone's wrestling with, is figuring out exactly what counts as official versus unofficial. The opinion gives some guidance. Look at the nature of the act, not the motive behind it. And courts can't just label something unofficial because it breaks the law. But it's going to be fact-specific, case by case, and messy. That's why the court sent parts of the case back down to the lower courts to sort through the charges one by one. And remember that earlier ruling from the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. They had unanimously shot down the idea of blanket immunity, saying no former president is untouchable for alleged crimes. The Supreme Court reversed that approach, saying the Constitution demands more layered protection for official conduct. It overturned their decision and remanded the whole thing for a fresh look under this new framework. This isn't just legal fine print, it's a moment that hits deep, touching on trust in our institutions, the balance of power, and whether accountability can still reach the highest office. Whatever side you're on, it's hard not to feel the weight of it. We're still unpacking the full opinion, but this ruling will echo for generations. More to come as the lower courts dig in. Hey folks, let's keep unpacking this landmark Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity. It's packed with some real eye-openers that cut through a lot of the noise and speculation we've heard for years. First off, the court put to rest any idea that a president could just pardon themselves out of federal criminal trouble. That notion, floating around as a quick fix-escape hatch, got shut down hard. A pardon is fundamentally an act of grace from one person to another, not something you can give yourself. It would flip the whole purpose of mercy and justice on its head. No self-pardons allowed. That closes off one big loophole people worried about. The immunity the court carved out isn't some blanket, get out of jail free card for everything a president does, far from it. It's actually pretty targeted. Absolute protection only kicks in for those narrow, core constitutional powers that belong exclusively to the president, like issuing pardons, commanding the military in certain ways, or handling foreign recognition. Step outside that tight circle into broader official duties, and you get a strong presumption of immunity. But it's not ironclad. Prosecutors can try to overcome it if they show it won't harm the executive branch's ability to operate. But here's the key flip side. Anything unofficial, personal, or tied to campaign stuff, private gain, or non-presidential business, no immunity whatsoever. Those stay fully open to prosecution. And on the impeachment angle, the court made it crystal clear that if a crime is serious enough to warrant impeachment, that doesn't automatically shield you from criminal charges. Impeachment is one path, political accountability through Congress, but it doesn't have to happen first or block a trial in court. The two are separate tracks. Once that presidency ends, the former president steps back into regular citizen status. No special cloak anymore for non-official stuff. Evidence comes in, trials can roll forward, and they face the same courtroom as anyone else. It's a sharp reminder that the office protects the duties of the job, not the person who holds it when they're acting for themselves. This really flips the old assumptions. For decades, folks figured presidents were mostly untouchable while in power or even right after. Remember Watergate? Nixon resigned and Ford pardoned him almost immediately. No drawn-out criminal saga. That quick mercy avoided a messy trial. But today's framework draws a much clearer boundary. Stick to genuine constitutional duties. You're shielded to let you lead boldly without constant legal second-guessing. Cross into personal or political self-interest, the law can and will reach you. It's a ruling that stirs deep feelings because it forces us to grapple with balance, protecting strong leadership without letting anyone become untouchable. Whatever your take, this one's going to shape how we view power and accountability for a long time. We're still watching how the lower courts apply it to the specific charges, but the lines are drawn sharper now than ever before. Hey folks, let's keep rolling through this Supreme Court decision. It's got layers that really hit home when you think about how power and accountability actually work in real life. Take the pardon thing again. Gerald Ford stepped in after Nixon resigned and issued that famous pardon to help the nation heal and move past Watergate. It was controversial as hell, but it came from one person granting mercy to another. The court is crystal clear now you can't do that for yourself. A self-pardon. No historical basis, no legal logic. Mercy isn't something you hand to your own reflection in the mirror. It defeats the whole point. The pardon power is meant to show grace, not to erase your own accountability. That door is officially slammed shut. Zoom out a bit and look around the world, and you see how unusual America's old approach has been. In South Korea, former presidents have ended up in courtrooms or even prison pretty regularly after leaving office. France has seen leaders face trials too. Those countries treat ex-leaders more like ordinary citizens once the term ends. Here in the U.S., there was always this quiet assumption that dragging a former president through criminal proceedings would tear the country apart, create too much chaos, or set a dangerous precedent. This ruling quietly pushes us closer to that global norm. No one gets a permanent pass just because they sat in the Oval Office. The law can reach you, even if you were once the most powerful person on earth. The part about impeachable offenses really packs a punch. We've always treated impeachment as purely political. Congress votes. It's about public pressure and party lines, not a courtroom. But the justices are drawing a direct line now. If what you did is bad enough that Congress could legitimately remove you for it, then the regular criminal justice system doesn't have to sit on its hands afterward. You don't get to survive impeachment and then stroll away scot-free. That link changes the stakes. It means serious wrongdoing can't just be politically handled and then forgotten. The courts can still step in once you're a private citizen again. Legal folks are calling the old setup a maze. Dodge here with a pardon, claim immunity there, run out the clock until everyone loses interest, and poof, problem fades. This ruling turns that into more of a straight path, almost like a conveyor belt. Core official acts, protected so you can do the job without paralysis, but stray into personal schemes, campaign dirty tricks, or self-serving moves. The belt keeps moving. You end up in front of a judge like anybody else. It's a sobering shift. On one hand, it protects the presidency so future leaders aren't afraid to act decisively. On the other, it strips away some of that invisible armor people assumed came with the job. No more assuming the system will always find a way to look the other way. Accountability feels a little more real now. Even at the very top, we're still seeing how this plays out in the lower courts. But man, this one feels like it redraws the map for generations. What do you think? Does it restore faith in the rule of law or open the door to more weaponized prosecutions? Either way, it's impossible to ignore the weight of it. More updates as they come. Hey folks, we're getting to the heart of what this Supreme Court ruling really does. It slams shut most of those old escape hatches and lays down a much straighter road for accountability. Before, every big case involving a former president turned into a procedural battlefield. Can you even bring charges? Does immunity block everything? Can we delay forever until the public tunes out? Those debates ate up years. Now the court has basically said, enough. Once the presidency ends, the path gets clearer: fact, finding, trial, verdict. The spotlight swings hard onto the evidence itself. Strength of the proof becomes the main fight, not whether the case can even exist. Think about cases like the classified documents one. Fighting over rules and technicalities is one thing. It's often abstract, legalistic, and you can sometimes win on procedure without ever touching the facts. But when the battle is about what actually happened, who said what documents were where, what intent was shown, it's a whole different animal. Facts are stubborn. You can't just lawyer your way out of a smoking gun memo or a recorded conversation the way you might dodge a jurisdictional argument. That puts any defendant in a tougher spot, no matter who they are. In the near term, expect a bunch of hearings where lower court judges have to roll up their sleeves and go charge by charge, act by act. The Supreme Court drew the line. Official acts tied to core presidential powers get absolute protection. Broader official ones get a strong presumption. Everything else, personal moves, campaign, related stuff, private citizen behavior, gets zero cover. Judges will have to sort each allegation into one bucket or the other. It's going to take months, maybe longer, but it doesn't freeze the cases. It just redirects the fight, not does immunity exist, but does this particular thing qualify as an official act? Once those classifications settle, things could actually move faster. Prosecutors now have a roadmap. They know the protected zones and the wide, open ones. They'll zero in on the stuff done as a candidate or a private individual. Those are the areas with no shield at all. Easier to build a case there, harder to knock it down on immunity grounds. Longer term, this reshapes the presidency in a profound way. Future occupants of the Oval Office are going to have to think twice, maybe 3 times, before blending personal ambition with official power. The old comfort zone of the office will probably protect me is shrinking. Bold decisions on policy, still shielded when they're genuinely part of the job. Self-serving moves dressed up as official business. Much riskier now. It's a bittersweet moment for a lot of people. On one side, it safeguards the ability to govern without constant legal paralysis. On the other, it reminds everyone that the highest office doesn't come with a lifetime exemption from consequences. The rule of law feels a little less abstract, a little more real. We're watching these lower court proceedings closely. The sorting process will be slow and painstaking, but it's progress toward clarity. Whatever your politics, this ruling forces us all to confront the same truth. Evidence matters, facts endure, and no one, not even a former president, is automatically above answering for them. Stay with us as this unfolds. Future presidents now know something pretty sobering. Every late-night phone call, every classified memo they sign off on, every closed-door meeting could one day land on a prosecutor's desk after they hand over the keys to the White House. No more assuming the job itself will act like a permanent shield. That single fact changes the mental math every time a big decision crosses the resolute desk. Some people see this as a straight-up win for integrity. It keeps leaders honest, forces them to think twice before crossing ethical lines, and reminds everyone that the presidency is a public trust, not a personal fortress. No one should be able to treat the most powerful office on earth like a get-out-of-accountability card. Others look at the same picture and feel a chill. They worry it could paralyze bold leadership. Imagine you're in the Oval Office facing a crisis, maybe a national security call that demands quick, tough judgment. If you know that years later a prosecutor with a different political lens could dissect that same call, twist the context, and turn it into a criminal charge, well, hesitation creeps in. The fear isn't just personal, it's about whether the country gets the decisive action it sometimes needs from its commander-in-chief. Then there's the raw reality of the charges themselves. We're talking heavy felonies here, mishandling classified documents. Federal guidelines often point to 10-20 years per count in serious cases. Obstruction of justice, up to 20 years. Election-related interference or conspiracy charges. Similar ballpark, long stretches that add up fast. Sure, sentences rarely hit the absolute maximum on every count, and judges usually run them concurrently instead of stacking them end to end. But even a fraction of those numbers is life-altering. Do the quick math. A 78-year-old convicted on a handful of serious counts gets 20 or 30 years. That isn't just prison, it's effectively a life sentence. Barring some miracle, they're not walking out at 108 or 110. We've seen it play out in other high-profile cases. People enter federal custody in their late 70s or 80s, and that's where their story ends. Not exaggeration, just arithmetic. So the stakes aren't abstract anymore. A conviction doesn't just mean headlines or fines, it could mean spending your final years behind bars. That raises the temperature on everything political. Prosecutors know the gravity. Defendants know it. The public feels it. When the outcome could literally be freedom versus dying in custody, every indictment, every motion, every trial becomes a pressure cooker. Trust in the system gets tested harder, divisions deepen. And the temptation to cry, weaponization, gets louder on all sides. This ruling doesn't erase those tensions, it amplifies them. It forces us to live with the trade-off stronger accountability at the top, but also the risk that fear of prosecution could quietly weaken the office itself. It's a tightrope our democracy has to walk now, and there's no easy off-ramp. Whatever happens next in the lower courts, this moment feels like one we'll look back on as a real turning point. Power still comes with protection where it needs to, but the old assumption of untouchability, that's gone. And that changes everything. Thanks for sticking with me through this deep dive. It's heavy stuff, but it's our system, and understanding it matters. Catch you on the next on. Hey folks, we're reaching the end of this deep dive, and it's worth pausing to feel the full weight of what just happened. The political fights ahead. They're gonna burn hotter than ever. When your freedom isn't just a talking point, but a real possibility hanging in the balance, alongside elections, legacy, and raw power, the temperature rises fast. We've seen it before in history. When the legal system finally closes in on someone who's wielded immense influence, it rarely creeps up slowly. It hits like a wave. One day the armor seems unbreakable. The next, the cracks are everywhere and the momentum is unstoppable. But here's the big picture now. The framework is locked in. Those old procedural escape routes, the endless delays, the blanket immunity claims, the self-pardon fantasies have been choked off in a way we've never seen. The Supreme Court drew the constitutional lines: no unlimited shield, no self-grace, no automatic lifetime pass. The D.C. Circuit had already made clear pardons don't exist in law or logic. Put it all together, and the road from former president to defendant in a federal courtroom is straighter and shorter than at any point in our 250-year story. This isn't a tweak. It's a fundamental reset in how we govern ourselves. The highest office still carries real protections where they matter, letting presidents act decisively on the nation's behalf without looking over their shoulder every second. But the illusion that the person in the chair is somehow untouchable, that's gone. Future presidents will know it. Sitting politicians feel it. Every American now lives under a clearer truth: the Oval Office doesn't make you forever beyond the law's reach. The long tail of this is going to play out for years, maybe decades. Lower courts will grind through the specifics charge by charge, deciding what was truly official and what wasn't. Future leaders will adapt, maybe become more cautious in the gray zones, maybe document everything obsessively, maybe rethink how they mix personal and public business. We'll watch it unfold in real time. What won't change is the certainty we've gained. American constitutional law just stepped into a new chapter on executive accountability. No more comfortable ambiguity. The rules are clearer. The stakes are higher, and the principle is sharper. No one, not even the person with the nuclear codes, stands completely above the law. It's heavy. It's historic. And whether you see it as a triumph for justice or a risky new vulnerability for leadership, it's ours now. This is the system we're all living under moving forward. Thanks for riding this out with me. It's one of those moments you tell your kids about someday, the day the Supreme Court redrew the map. We'll keep watching as the story keeps writing itself. Take care out there.